An early season Arctic blast is moving in, and it may be even colder than originally expected. Our short range models are now starting to pick up on this weekend's winter storm, and they're giving us a little bit more detail. And a severe weather outbreak may be on the table for this weekend. It's November 5th, 2025. Let's get into the weather updates. Starting off, let's take a look at our 00Z European temperature anomalies. As we get into Saturday, Sunday, here comes all that cold sinking air down into the Ohio Valley, through the plains, and then out into the southeast and towards the mid-Atlantic and New England. Look at how cold some of this air is. We're seeing 30 to 40 degrees below average down here through portions of Appalachia, down in the southeast. We could actually see areas of central Florida that are 30 degrees below their normal temperature. And then as we start pushing into the middle of next week, we have some warm air replacing that. We're going to have a little bit of a zonal flow set up for a few days, but we are going to see more cold air trying to get down into New England and potentially out towards the eastern seaboard. If we were to look at actual temps, look how cold it could be down in the southeast as we get into this upcoming Monday night and Tuesday morning. We're talking about low 40s down into South Florida and potentially below freezing through portions of Central Florida up through the panhandle of Florida. It's going to be close. Look at this feels like wise. You could have 26, 27 degree feels like temperatures in Florida. And why do I talk about Florida specifically? Well, if it's that cold in Florida, look up here to the north. We're talking about single digits up here in Appalachia and potentially widespread 20s and teens out through the southeast. Pushing up to the northeast, we could see those freezing temperatures actually approaching the coast, which is pretty rare this early in the season. Typically, these temperatures stay a little bit farther away from the ocean, a little bit more inland, because those warm ocean waters help to regulate the temperatures near the coast. But we're seeing close to freezing out there along the New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and up the New England coastline there. If we were to look at our apparent temperatures for this time, well, the feels like is definitely below freezing. This is extremely cold air. I can't say it enough for this time of year. And then moving out towards the central US, we could even have feels like temperatures get into the high 20s for portions of Texas. And look at our temperatures in the teens through the Dakotas, Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. This is widespread freezing air. And this is a little bit colder than what was originally expected. Now that's the apparent temperature. Here's the actual temperature. Still, this is cold. We're talking about mid to low 30s in the Texas panhandle. And I think this is part of the reason the Euro's thinking we could actually get a little bit of back-end snowfall from our snow system moving through this weekend. So I'd say watch out for some flakes in Tennessee and Kentucky, but we're going to get to that now. Let's take a look at the latest 00Z run from the European. Here we go as we get into Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. We have that cold air trough sinking in from the north, trying to link up with this shortwave trough from the south. Now, this shortwave trough is what's going to bring the moisture, and this upper level low is what's going to bring the cold air from the north. Here we go. That trough is pushing down. They're linking up. But the European thinks this cold air isn't quite in place to bring heavy snow or maybe even any snow at all through portions of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, into Chicago, Detroit. I still think we're going to get some flakes there, but if you believe the European, you're actually watching the backside of this. Watch as this low pressure moves up to the northeast, all of this cold air sinks in, and the Euro thinks there's still moisture there. So could we get some decent back end snow as we get into Monday? Well, let's take a look at this. Look at all of this snowfall into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Western PA. This is getting much farther south than we've seen on the Euro. It's still bringing our snow chances through the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Iowa, but it thinks that cold air is not really going to be in place until after that low pressure system moves off to the northeast, which is why it's saying, hey, maybe we get a ton of back end snow through the Ohio Valley. I think it's very interesting. Now, I'll tell you right now, our GFS disagrees. Our GFS does think this cold air will be in place here, and we'll get a little bit more snow than the European up here in the Dakotas, Iowa, Minnesota, and then through Wisconsin. But as we move forward in time, the GFS doesn't think all that moisture is going to be available after that cold air sinks. Look, we're not getting any flurries out here in the Ohio Valley on the GFS, so this is something they just can't agree with. But guess what? We can finally get into our short range models and look at what our NAM 12K is showing us. Actually more enhanced snow up here than the European. It's agreeing with the GFS, thinking that this cold air could be in place, that upper level low. That trough could sink down a little bit quicker to link up with the shortwave trough from the south. So right now I may be leaning more towards this than the Euro just because we have some short range agreement. We can also take a look at the Rufus model, and it's showing that cold air in place as well. So you have the NAM GFS and Rufus agreeing a little bit more on extra snow up here for the upper Midwest. Although again, the European's a great model. It's a great model with temperatures. It does great over winter. It's probably our best global with snow forecasting. So it's tough. It's tough to go against the Euro, I'll say that. The European AI model does still like a decent amount of snow through this region here. You can see through the Dakotas and then through northern Iowa and then potentially even into the Milwaukee and Chicago region. And then it also likes a decent amount of snow through Detroit and up through inner New England. So it's being a little bit more aggressive with the northern snow than the European deterministic, but it's not putting that snow down in the Ohio Valley. So still a little bit of a confusion. As we get into tomorrow and we get the full runs basically of this snowstorm with our short range models, that's when we're going to be able to pin down, I think, locally, hey, we're probably not going to see that Ohio Valley snow, but we're probably going to see a much higher potential for snow through Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, Minneapolis, Des Moines, depending on wherever this thing goes. But the short range models give us a lot more detail, and this is what they're better at. They're better at looking out in that 48, 72 to what is the Rufus 84-hour time frame and painting us a better picture than what the globals can, because again, they're long range models. They're not short range models. Really quickly, if you guys like this type of content, I upload stuff like this every single day. If you could subscribe and hit that notification bell, it really helps the channel and I appreciate it. Back to the video. What we're looking at right here is the European ensemble probability of snowfall map. If you're in any of these colors here, the European model thinks there's a chance you could see over an inch of snow. Obviously down here through the Dakotas, northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, much of Wisconsin. Here's what's interesting. Northeastern Illinois, almost down to southern Indiana, all of Ohio, the eastern half of Kentucky, even through portions of Tennessee and down here through southern Appalachia. And it does put those snow chances almost all the way out towards Philly, trying to get into the mid-Atlantic. I don't know if it's going to get that far out though, but I do think that's quite interesting. Going into our GFS ensemble, this moves the snow line up a little bit farther towards Minneapolis, brings you chances down into Omaha, and still likes central to northern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. Obviously, it doesn't bring in all that cold air on the back end here with moisture like the European model does, but it's not a bad look for good snowfall. I would say an inch or more of snowfall is good snowfall for this early in the season for a lot of these areas. Moving on to severe weather. As I said, we may have a chance for a severe weather outbreak this weekend. I don't know if it's quite going to be an outbreak, but we already have a pretty large marginal and slight risk. By the way, that slight risk has Nashville right in the bullseye, so we need to talk about this. And we do have that 2% tornado risk up there in the Pacific Northwest, so let's look at that first. I can tell you this, I've already looked at a lot of these updated parameters this morning. This is actually the second time making this video because the first time something happened to my audio. So if I'm talking quickly this video, it's because I've already recorded this whole thing and I had to re-record it. Anyways, lots of storm relative helicity up here. I'm not surprised. We have a large low pressure system sitting off the coast, whipping the tail end of it. That's the chance we could have violently rotating thunderstorms. These are high SRH numbers. I mean, you're seeing up here through portions of northwestern Oregon SRH numbers. And let me move this over for you. SRH numbers upwards of 620. That's actually incredible, although I think most of the activity may be a little bit farther south than that. And we have some really decent shear out in this region too. You can see this is the 850 millibar shear, so these are the winds right above our head, and they're doing a little bit of rotating and their velocities are fluctuating with height. So this is some decent shear that could produce tornadoes. The one thing I'm still not seeing a ton of is instability, although we have seen the instability go up a little bit. I pulled a couple soundings earlier and we do have now over 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE up and down this coast here. So over 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, SRH numbers 250 plus, easily 250 plus, and then we've got surface shear 30, 35 plus easily. Yeah, we could get some spin ups here. Now again, the instability is low, and that's what I think is going to keep us from getting these very strong tornadoes. But if you're out here, have multiple ways to receive weather alerts, because it's not very often you get tornadoes out here. I know a lot of you are like, it's not going to happen. Listen, the conditions are here. Have a way to get your weather alerts, stay up to date. It's better to be safe than sorry. Moving out to the Ohio Valley for Friday, you can see our instability numbers are a little bit higher, these CAPE values. Again, I pulled some soundings from here. We do have in some areas 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram of CAPE, so definitely steeper than what we're seeing up in the Northwest, which isn't surprising because this is out towards Tornado Dixie Alley. This would be Dixie Alley. So typically you can get a little bit more instability in this region. Here's our upper level low to the north, and you kind of got the tail whipping through Dixie Alley, the Ohio Valley. This is what's going to give us the opportunity for some spin ups, definitely. You can see if we zoom in here, we do have the chance for some supercells to form, at least with the latest Rufus model, through Tennessee, Kentucky, potentially down there through, who knows, northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. But right now it's showing up. This is something we need to pay attention to. We're definitely going to have the conditions here for some strong to severe thunderstorms capable of producing decent sized hail, strong winds, and maybe even a few tornadoes. So as we get into tomorrow, we'll be able to hone in on the details of this severe weather for Friday, maybe even Saturday out towards the coast. I do think some of this may transfer out towards the coast as we push through the weekend. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. And like I said, if you do enjoy this content, I make uploads like this every single morning. This one's going to be later than normal because I had to record it for a second time, but I do upload every single morning, and I typically get on and stream right after I upload to answer all of your weather forecast and outlook questions. I do have a Discord full of awesome live weather updates every single day, tons of weather information, weather enthusiasts. The link is right down in my description. It's an awesome place to hang out and talk weather and get all the updates you need. Again, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video or the next live stream.